Hello everyone, it's FPL Phillips here and welcome to my first ever video on the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. This is the start of a very special series where each week of the season I'm going to be taking on the highly renowned Fantasy Football Fix algorithm to see who can score the most points for each week of the season. If you don't know what I'm talking about by the Fix algorithm, it's essentially a vastly complicated, massive set of code that goes ahead and predicts pretty much in a nutshell who's going to score you the most FPL points in the season.
That's not in the good.
And using the assistant manager on the Fantasy Football Fix website, you can go ahead and find out what transfers are best for your team, what team's going to perform the best this week. It recommends you all types of stuff. You can put in loads of filters, how many defenders you want from each team maximum, how much emphasis you want on your bench even. There's so much you can do there, and it's an amazingly useful tool. But enough of the intro, you've heard enough of that. You can go over to the Fantasy Football Fix website and check it out if you want to, and you can get a massive 65% off at this time.
You cannot afford. Great success.
So without further ado, let's jump straight into it and find out what the algorithm has selected for its dream team for game week 1. So here we are live in the studio, and this is where I'm going to be showing you every week the algorithm 11 with their bench, then doing a bit of player comparison, comparing a few of the picks that I think maybe some of the weak ones in the algorithm's team, and maybe replacing them with a few of my own, or I may come out with a completely different looking team to the algorithm. And how this is going to work is, so I'll take on the algorithm every week, and if the algorithm's team scores more than my team, they'll score a point on our scoreboard. So it'll be 1-0 to the algorithm after game week 1. I'm being very optimistic, as you can see, about my chances. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful. But as you know, with a dream team, the bench doesn't count for a lot. So we'll bring the bench in first and just get it out of the way. As you can see, it's Foster, Armati, Brownhill and Gilmore for the algorithm 11, which is just as cheap as you can get. Some very, very solid picks. You know, Armati will probably get a star for Leicester, and so at least they've got a playing player if someone in the starting 11 fails to make the cut for whatever reason. And so bringing into the goalkeeper, it's going to be Robert Sanchez of Brighton, and the Brighton keeper's a very, very highly selected keeper, and there's good reason for it. Priced at only 4.5, he's a great enabler to spend that 1 million that you might have spent upgrading to the likes of a Martinez elsewhere in the squad. And you have to say that Burnley, there aren't many better defensive fixtures that you can come across. Burnley, a renownedly poor attacking team, and so Brighton, with their strength in defence, given that Lamptey is out, despite that, they could easily pick up a clean sheet away at Brighton, and I could easily see it happening. Not too much to talk about there, and obviously a very, very solid pick for the algorithm with the highest projected scoring keeper for this week that fits into this squad. Into the defence then, we're moving on, and we're seeing some very, very looking template picks with one or two surprises in there. So Luke Shaw and Trent Alexander-Arnold, the two most highly owned defenders in the game. Luke Shaw, the highest owned player in the game at time of recording. And so yeah, Shaw takes on Leeds at home for United. With United's new set piece taker as well, he obviously has a threat from there. Harry Maguire could be getting on the end of crosses, which could make him a valid option too if we're looking forward to the future. But for this week, Shaw seems the most confident, and coming back from the Euros, a fantastic campaign. He's going to be getting the crosses in that could well end up on someone else's head. It doesn't have to be Maguire, and he's been known to get forward a lot, and he's been delivering crosses along the floor a lot more recently, which has mean that he's scoring. There's tap-ins for anyone. There's tap-ins for Martial, who it looks like he may start. There's tap-ins for any of those front three for United that could be starting, and they've got a very strengthened team against a Leeds side who have been known to go big and go out against the big sides, and it didn't pay off for them too well at Old Trafford last time. Maybe Shaw can favour if something similar happens again for United at home. And then we've got the two Liverpool defenders. It's gone with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it's gone with Tsimikas. And Tsimikas is a 4.0 million defender who has come in as a result of Robertson's injury. Robertson, I think, was in this algorithm 11 beforehand. I've been checking it every couple of days or so just to see what kind of competition I'm coming up against. But Tsimikas comes in. Obviously, that Norwich fixture looks absolutely lovely, and has decided to go for a double up. And very well justified. Trent Alexander-Arnold, the most highly projected scoring defender for almost every single week, based on the fixed algorithm, and you know, he's notoriously the most highly scoring FPL defender, really. And so very, very wise to go for him at 7.5, and then Simicast at 4.0 seems an absolute steal, and it's probably allowed some extra funds to go into other areas of this team. We've got almost none on the bench. I'm excited to see which other players make it in. Then it's gone for Cesar Azpilicueta, the 6.0 Chelsea right back, who it looks like will start at right back against Crystal Palace, and I'm almost surprised that there's only one Chelsea defender in this team. Crystal Palace don't look great, but as we know with Chelsea, they've looked very, very solid at the back, and it makes me question whether Azpilicueta is the one to go for out of that entire Chelsea defence. Obviously, you're really only thinking about the two fullbacks and maybe the goalkeeper, so perhaps that could be one to look into. But Azpilicueta, he's been known to get great crosses in. If Lukaku can come in, we're still unknown slightly whether he'll be able to play. But even into the box, they've got Havertz, and Azpilicueta has always been a fantastic crosser of the ball to those forwards, whoever's coming in at Chelsea, whether it's been Diego Costa, Morata in the past. He's had a very good link-up, albeit that those two guys are Spanish. But Havertz or Lukaku, whoever's in there, has strong physical presence, and Azpilicueta, with his experience, sure as hell knows how to cross the ball by now. But moving on into the midfield, let's go and have a look at it. Mohamed Salah and Bruno Fernandes, I'm not surprised to be honest, and then Harvey Barnes. So Salah and Fernandes, pretty box standard picks. It's on for the Liverpool triple up now, which I was definitely most expecting. Then Shaw and Bruno Fernandes against Leeds with a double up. Maybe we'll see Treble United in the attack with maybe an Anthony Martial. But there, Harvey Barnes as well is perhaps most surprising of the team other than Azpilicueta so far, with the Wolves fixture at home. And Harvey Barnes, in that one striker Leicester system, does actually look like a bit more of an appealing asset than if they were going to line up with two forwards. And so I'm pretty confident that Barnes will do well this season. Whether Wolves is a fixture to go for him, he looks a brilliant captaincy option for that Norwich fixture in game week 3, which is quite a reason I'm considering as probably the best 7.0 midfielder this year, perhaps alongside Ferran Torres, who's even more of a risk, but could be playing at the number 9. But I do like Harvey Barnes, and it's good to see that the algorithm is backing him and his underlying stats to get something, in particular in game week 1 as well. So it just shows the Wolves is not as grey as a fixture as Fantasy Premier League predict on their site, or maybe Leicester attack is just too good. And finally, moving on to the forwards, we're looking at Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, and Danny Ings. So yeah, Calvert-Lewin against Southampton, you have to say, a lovely, lovely looking fixture with a team that's been ripped apart almost this transfer window. They have brought in a new striker, obviously, but they could still lose Vestergaard to a different Premier League club. And then Antonio and Ings, who have been taking up the majority of the FPL Twitter community's template drafts, to be honest. So Antonio against Newcastle, Danny Ings against Watford of Aston Villa, the new signing. Of course, we were all shocked when he was announced a few days ago, or it's probably weeks now, but it feels like it happened only yesterday, the shock factor. The one thing I'm slightly perplexed about is this Calvert-Lewin toe injury that supposedly happened. I'm not sure how injured your toe can be if it's not broken, but there is talk that Calvert-Lewin will be back for game week 1, and so I think it really does depend on that. Obviously, there's not much on the bench to offer the algorithm, but Calvert-Lewin against Southampton, if he starts, I've got a really bad feeling, well, for me, in this case, if I don't go with him, that he's going to do very, very well. And, of course, Southampton have been known to be the whipping boys, and maybe only Norwich will be taking their place this season. So, yeah, that concludes it for the Algorithm 11. Let's go and have a look at some of the stats that are interesting me about some of these players. So the thing that's most interesting to me about all of the picks in the Algorithm 11 is perhaps that Azpilicueta pick at Chelsea. So the right back, 6 million, same price as Chilwell. And I thought it would be interesting for this video to compare the two and see which one I like the look of the most. And Azpilicueta, you'd have to say, is more nailed. There's been talk of Chilwell with that late return from the Euros. He could maybe not start. And if so, that probably makes Alonso a very, very good one-week punt as well. But if you look at the stats here, they're both obviously the same price. With appearances last season, Chilwell with the 1 extra, and of course, quite a few more minutes than Azpilicueta as well. Chilwell getting 3 goals to Azpi's 1 and 6 assists to Azpi's 2, with an XG much higher and an XA slightly higher than the Spaniards. And expected FPL points, Chilwell was nearly 20 more. And as you can see from the heat maps, they do differ slightly. They both get forward quite a lot, but Chilwell tends to stick wide, stick to the byline, and that's where he gets his most success with attacking returns, is from crosses off the left. But you can clearly see he was getting into the box a bit as well to get those 3 goals that he did. And so, would I go for Azpilicueta or Chilwell? I think this is one where I'm going to be a bit different, and I'm going to go for Ben Chilwell. I've got a feeling that he'll score the most points in game week 1, and just generally, the eye test, I think Chilwell passes it more. When Azpilicueta had those other forwards at the club that he linked up with better, I think there might have been a stronger case for him. But I think Ben Chilwell, in terms of attacking, when Havertz will be playing as the number 9, I think he could be the one to go for this year. I think he's going to make it into my team, which I'm going to show you now. So here is my team, and I'm not going to reveal it one by one and bore you all to death. I'm just going to stick it on screen so you're now frantically looking for which players are different. And immediately your eyes are drawn in goal to Mendy. Mendy, 6 million keeper. I thought I would splash the cash in goal, and I've gone with a double up at the Chelsea back. And it's not with Azpilicueta, it's instead with Ben Chilwell, who we've just touched on. And so I've gone with Mendy and Chilwell. I really am backing a clean sheet for Chelsea, and you may be seeing alarm bells go off for you because I have actually sacrificed Trent Alexander-Arnold in defence. I've changed out Trent Alexander-Arnold and Aspi for Dean and Chilwell, and this is a risk. I did it partly because I really fancy Diogo Jota in midfield, and it does help me fund-wise to get him in as well. And so what I've done is downgraded Trent. I've just got a feeling that I don't think Trent's going to fire against Norwich. I think maybe against Burnley or in future games, maybe Chelsea's a game where Trent could fire off easily, but I don't know what it is. I feel like I might have a bit of an edge here, and that I'm just saving that 3.5 million and putting it into other areas, but this could seriously come back to bite me in the you-know-what. So Dean in defence, I've got as, I think, Southampton without Danny Ings, the new striker. Will he be able to start? I'm really not sure about Armstrong, and so I'm going with that to cover the Everton defence. There's not really any other Everton defender I wanted to go for, but I really do think that they'll keep a clean sheet. But I've stuck with Shaw, I've stuck with Tsimikas, so not a too different looking back line. And then in midfield, we've gone with 2 changes as well. Salah and Fernandes remain just for their points capability. I was half tempted to go with Mane instead of Salah because there is talk that James Milner may start for Liverpool against Norwich, and in that case Salah loses his penalties, which is a serious threat he has of his. Obviously over the long course of the season that doesn't play much of a factor, but we're only considering 1 game here, so Mohamed Salah could potentially fall to Mane, but I still think that Salah has a higher threshold. Mane, albeit, has been playing fantastically well in pre-season, and it was quite a tough call to make. I also considered going for players like Son, maybe someone like Mahrez instead of Bruno, finding someone else to go for, or maybe even doubling up on Salah and Mane instead. But I thought I'd stick with Bruno Fernandes because I've managed to get in pretty much every other player I wanted anyway, and Bruno Fernandes is that man nailed in the Manchester United team, although I do like Greenwood as well as a pick. So yeah, we've got Kai Havertz in as our 3rd midfielder, who looks to be playing as the number 9 for Chelsea. We're yet to see at time of recording of the European Super Cup. Maybe something will change there that could affect my decision on Havertz, but you'll have to wait and see, and maybe check out the Fantasy Football Fix Twitter to check if there are any emergency late changes to Eddie's 11. And then Diogo Jota comes in as our 4th midfielder, who I've already mentioned. I think he's just a fantastic asset. 9 goals last season. Didn't even get a single assist because that's how greedy he was in that time. And his points per 90 look absolutely fantastic. In particular, his goals per 90 are amazing. So if he can get a start, which will most likely be at the number 9 position, likewise with Havertz, these players who are in for 1 week may be absolutely set for huge hauls against their respective teams. And then up front, we've gone with 2 of the 3 that were already there, so not too much to talk about. Danny Ings comes in as the lone striker for Aston Villa, and Antonio away to Newcastle is my 2nd striker I've taken the pick of. I've obviously got Calvert-Lewin out, but if Calvert-Lewin comes back, I'm still confident with Dean that it almost improves Dean's capabilities as well. So if Calvert-Lewin scores, hopefully it's not too bad because Dean will be the one hopefully assisting the goal. So yeah, Danny Ings in an Aston Villa front line, much improved, with perhaps the likes of El Ghazi, who I did consider because he probably will be on penalties. I also considered perhaps the likes of Ollie Watkins at 7.5, although him moving out to the left limits his appeal a lot more for me, and most people in the game will be going for Danny Ings now, and that's been shown by his ownership rise and Watkins' ownership's drop in the last few days. And then there's also Buendia as well at Aston Villa, who I did think about for a bit, but I didn't fancy a double up, and Buendia has had a few injury concerns in the last few days. On the bench, we're looking pretty similar. We've got Armati and Foster, likewise with the algorithm 11, and then we've got Gibbs White and Obafemi, and I've got those guys first because I fancy Gibbs White if he gets minutes. And although he's got the Leicester fixture, I think out of the 4.5 midfielders, there's Brownhill, there's perhaps Gilmore that the algorithm 11 had, there's Basuma, there's a few others. I think that Gibbs White has the highest ceiling if he gets minutes. Albeit Gilmore and Brownhill may get 2 points instead of 1, but I think Gibbs White just looks the most dangerous if he comes off the bench, or lo and behold, if he starts. But if Gibbs White or Obafemi don't come on and don't get appearances, then that's no problem. As long as it's only one player from my 11 that perhaps misses out, then I've got Marty, who does look likely to start for Leicester, as I've mentioned. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for my 11 and my bench for Eddie versus the Algorithm, episode 1 for game week 1. Wish me the best of luck. Leave in the comments below, who do you guys think is going to come out on top? I'm assuming many of you will be absolutely ripping into me for not going with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but this is going to end one of two ways, with you with the bragging rights or me with the bragging rights. Don't worry, I won't rub it in too much when it happens. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more content on the Fantasy Football Fix channel, and of course leave a like if you're interested in the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with this team. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and goodbye.